The mind has two elements, as I said, interdependent, the conscious and the subconscious. Now, this is very critical, is because we have grouped those two, conscious and subconscious, say one mind. I go, no, no, it's always two minds that work together. But they're two separate entities. And here's the critical part. They learn in different ways and they have different functions. So blaming the mind or blaming the subconscious without understanding this is a very confusing issue. So just to very briefly say, what's the difference? I have two minds, conscious and the subconscious, original brain. Subconscious is the equivalent of a habit mind. The subconscious is like stimulus response, reaction. You push the button, create the behavior. No thinking involved, okay? So you walk outside and it's cold out. The body will sense the temperature. The subconscious mind will adjust the temperature of the interior of the body, warm it up, heat it up to keep it warm to operating temperature. Or if you step outside and it's warm out, well, then the body will read the warm temperature and then start to cool the body down using perspiration, etc. What? To keep the same body temperature. So I'm saying, did the conscious mind, did you have any thought about this? The answer is no, it was automatic. You read the temperature, you adjusted the biology. And I go, 95% of our life, including our behavior, is from that mind, the subconscious mind. And I go, okay, wait, so what's the difference now? I say subconscious mind is like the habit mind. I learned how to walk, subconscious got a program. Do I need to learn how to walk every day? And the answer is no. Once you learn how to walk, you know how to walk. It's a program. When you learn how to drive a car, you don't have to remember how to drive a car every day. It's automatic. Yeah. So subconscious mind ends up being the habit mind. Once you learn how to do a response, then every time that system or that, whatever shows up that is connected to that, you just push the button, the behavior will play automatically from the habit mind. I say, well, the evolution that makes humans so different than lower animals is the evolution of a piece of brain tissue right behind your forehead called the prefrontal cortex. That's the seat of the conscious mind. I go, okay, separate mind. I say, what's the difference? The conscious mind is not a habit mind. The conscious mind is a creative mind. This is what allowed humans to separate themselves from animals. Animals make responses, stimulus, response, stimulus, response. The sparrows show up at Capistrano on the right day every year, not because they know the calendar, because it's built into the system, okay? The turtles come on the beach and lay their eggs at a very certain time in the calendar, not because they're thinking about it, because it's habit and automatic, okay? But the conscious mind says, I could stop the program. I could create a new program. I could have wishes and desires. That's creativity. Because if I ask you, I say, Dirk, hey, what are you doing next Monday? And you go, I'm thinking about it. I'm creating an answer what I'm going to do. I'm going to go swimming. I'm going to go on a hike. Well, you haven't gotten to Monday yet, but you are already creating a future. Yeah. Okay? That's character of the conscious mind. I go, why is it relevant? Then it comes down to simply this. The conscious mind is the mind with wishes and desires. I said, what about subconscious mind? I go, no, that's programs. Stimulus response. Push the button, the program. Push the button. I said, where do you get those programs? I said, well, experience mainly. Okay? So I say, okay, here's the issue. Our lives are controlled by our mind. The conscious mind is creative and has your destination that you would love to see. Okay? The subconscious mind just has how to deal with life. Mm-hmm. Just the way it is. I say, well, where did those programs come from? I say, good point. It goes like this. A child's mind, I'd like to make it analogous to an iPod. And I go, what's the relevance? I say, well, on the iPod, there's a little wheel on the front called the click wheel. And that's the one that you can select the music. And you can go fast forward or reverse or push on pause, turn the volume up or down. I go, oh, that you're creating a playlist. The click wheel is the conscious mind equivalent. I say, okay, here's the point. You go to the Apple store, you buy a brand new iPod, take it out of the box and push play. And nothing happens on your click wheel. And everybody, of course, looks at you and goes, well, no, you can't have anything play because you didn't download any programs. I say, download the programs? I say, yeah, you put information into the hard drive. That's the subconscious mind. And with that information, the conscious mind can select and play and change and create and all that. But if there's no data in the subconscious mind, the conscious mind has nothing to work with. So the simple story would be imagine a baby could speak the moment it's born. And it's coming out of the birth canal, and it's just coming into the world, and we say, hey, welcome, tell me something. And the little baby would look up at you and go, I don't know anything, I just got here. And the point is, that's an iPod with no program. So in other words, for a baby to use the process of consciousness, it has to have some kind of data to start with. So nature designed the first 7 years of a child's life to put programs into that database, into that subconscious. And it does so through a simple physiological mechanism. It actually, the brain does not work at the level of consciousness, a higher vibration of brain activity, as read by like EEG wires. You stick wires on your head, and you can read there are very different levels of vibrational frequencies. Consciousness is a higher frequency. Subconscious is a lower frequency. Okay?
Yeah.
So it says, before a child expresses consciousness as a way of life, and that's the first 7 years, the child is not expressing consciousness, the brain activity is as a lower vibration than consciousness. That lower vibration is called theta. And I say, well, what's the character of theta? I say, theta is associated with imagination. I go, yeah, that's what children, like between 2 and 7, they take real world and then turn it into imaginary world. So a child rides a broom. To the child, that broom is a horse at that moment. And if the parent says, give me the broom, the child looks up at the parent and goes, what broom? This is a horse. Why? Mixing imagination and real world. Theta. That's what characteristic is. But theta is also hypnosis. So the reason why this 7 years of hypnosis is very simple. If I asked you, Dirk, make me a list of all the rules that is required for an individual to understand how to be a functional member of a family and a functional member of a society and a community, how many rules do we have to know? It's like thousands.
Probably.
I say, okay. Yeah, so I say, okay, teach a child 1,000 rules before they're 7. And you say, you can't teach a child 1,000 rules. You go, sit down here. We got a big book, 1,000 pages, a rule on each page. You just learn each rule. It's like a 1-year-old kid's like, what? It's like, you can't teach a child at that level. I say, well, then how does a child learn? I say, because for the first 7 years, the brain is in that low frequency theta, imagination, which is also hypnosis, which means a child learns the rules of life by primarily observing the behavior of other people and downloading their behavior. So as you're a child in a family, you study the father, you see your siblings, you see the community around you, and the first 7 years, you're on record. It's not even going into the conscious mind. Bypassing hypnosis, bypasses consciousness, boom, straight into subconscious. So the programs that you're downloading in your iPod, your mind, are programs that don't even come through your consciousness. There are other people's behaviors that are straight downloaded into you. So your subconscious is fundamentally programmed by other people. I say, why is that relevant? I go, maybe they don't have your wishes and your desires. And the result is, if they don't have your wishes and desires, then their programming is not going to get you to your wishes and your desires. So subconscious program turns out, and psychologists have recognized, 70% or more of these downloaded subconscious programs are negative, disempowering, self-sabotaging. Why? Because our parents' behavior is not necessarily the best behavior in the world, and yet we record what they do.
So would you call that some kind of fault in our creation?
No. The only fault we have, lack of knowledge that this was going on. Why? Because if I would give the right programming, I would encourage a child with good programming to succeed and go beyond success. Parents have no idea that their behavior is imprinted into their child's mind before age 7. And then I say, why is that relevant? And that is because parents want to be parents. They want to help the children. So they act like coaches on a sports team. If a player on a sports team isn't doing well, the coach gets angry and goes, come on, you can do better than that. You don't deserve to be out here on this field. You're not that good. And a child at that age, beyond 7, is conscious.
Yeah.
And I say, what does it mean? Because when the coach is saying that, they go, oh, yeah, I'm not performing up to my ability. I could work harder. I could be a better athlete. And therefore, the coach is yelling at me because I'm not doing well. And I can do better.
Yeah.
I go, yeah, but if a child is under 7 and not operating from consciousness, but just downloading, I say, so what program did the child just get? Oh, not good enough, not lovable, not smart enough, not deserving. I go, why? Because if that's your fundamental programming, your subconscious, then when you play those behaviors, you're going to manifest a life that matches those programs. So that's the beautiful part. The mind takes the programs and manifests life out of the program.
Yeah.
If the program is negative, then the mind will take the negative program and create a negative response. And so basically then it says, parents thinking they're helping their child by criticizing them don't realize they're actually undermining their child, because the child's not able to consciously understand, oh, dad's mad at me because I did this, and that's why he's yelling at me, and so I won't do that. That's an older child. That's one who's got consciousness. So first 7 years, parents acting as coaches criticize us. I go, well, what's the result of that? Well, in our subconscious programming, the biggest issue, if I want to pick one of the biggest issues of all, because there are many of them, is we are so used to the criticism and have become so critical of ourselves because of the criticism that we lose love for ourselves. And in fact, when I work in groups and we do workshop programs and we test for the belief, I love myself, 80-90% of the people in every group will not test positive for that. I go, what's the relevance of that? I say, well, if your programming is you don't love yourself, then your brain is supposed to take the program and turn it into life. Then it will create a life where you will have no reason to love yourself, and then you'll be true. Yeah, I was programmed that I don't love myself, and there are reasons why. Yeah. And now I believe why, and I say, well, why is it relevant? If you can't love yourself, then recognize this, you cannot be loved by anybody else. There's a simple reason. If I say I can't love myself, and this person comes up and says, I love you, I look at them and go, well, what kind of quality control do you have? Because if I look at my own self, I'm not lovable, and you say you love me, well, then you don't have good quality control. So we deny love. We break relationships. And this is the biggest issue on this planet, because if we can't appreciate ourselves in the process, and the brain will manifest a life that will match that program. I will create a life that when I look at it and go, God, how can I love myself? Look at that life that I have. And it's like, no. First you had a program you didn't love you. You didn't create a life that matched the program and all of a sudden. So the biggest issue is, as I said, most of the programming psychologists will tell us that we get in the first 7 years is negative, redundant, disempowering, self-sabotaging, all these kinds of programs. Not by intention, but by not having knowledge that when a parent says these things, that the parent doesn't recognize the child just recording that. It's not thinking about it, just recording that. You go, well, okay, that's in the subconscious. I'm going to use my conscious mind and create my life, because that's the one that has wishes and desires. Yes, I want to have a great relationship. I want to have a wonderful job, and I want to be extremely healthy. I go, good conscious creativity. This is really great. And I say, well, how come my life never really matches my conscious wishes and desires? And here, the key. The conscious mind, besides being creative with wishes and desires, is also capable of thinking. So I say, well, what's the significance of this? So I say, okay, hey, Dirk, what are you doing Thursday? If you really contemplate, then you'll recognize by definition, the moment you were thinking about what you're going to do on Thursday, you are not paying attention to what's happened right here, right in front of your face, right now. Yeah. Because your conscious mind is traveling. Yeah. It's either going in the past, reviewing your life, moving into the future, thinking of what you'd like to have out of your life. And I go, well, my conscious mind is not paying attention to the current moment. Then who is? I go, the subconscious mind is always present. It's always there at the present moment. And so here's the fact. The moment the conscious mind is thinking, behavior doesn't stop. In other words, if you're walking down the street and you have a thought, you don't freeze and then say, oh, okay, thought's done. Now I go back walking down the street again. You have a thought, you continue walking. I go, yeah, but who's monitoring where you're walking? Did you have a thought and then run into a telephone pole? Did you fall off the curb? No. You continued on exactly where you're supposed to go, but you weren't paying attention. So I say, what does it mean? And here it is. This is it. When the conscious mind is busy, the behaviors are now by default taken over by the subconscious mind. What science has found, and this is the sobering fact, is that our conscious mind is in thought about 95% of the time. I go, well, what does that mean? Well, then by definition, the 95% of your life is not coming from your conscious mind, the creative mind, the wishes and desires mind. That mind's not online. It's thinking. Then 95% of my life is coming from the programs. I go, yeah, but the fundamental programs don't even match my wishes and desires. They came from other people. So 95% of the day, am I behaving my interest? I go, no, 95% of the day you're operating from the program. Yeah. And most of these programs that we mentioned are negative and self-sabotaging. And I say, well, what is the net consequence of all that? And here's what it is. 95% of our life, we're not observing the behavior that is playing. Because when you're thinking and you default, whatever behavior is coming out is not being observed by the conscious mind, which is busy thinking. So I go, 95% of your life is in program. I go, here's the nutshell. The movie The Matrix, which most people have seen, I go in the video store, where do I find The Matrix? And they say, oh, it's over there in science fiction department. I go, oh, The Matrix is not science fiction. The Matrix is a documentary. We have all been programmed. Yes, that's an established fact. And since most of that programming is negative, then we always struggle in our lives trying to get to this conscious mind's wishes and desires because we're not operating from that mind. And I go, well, in the movie The Matrix, if you take the pill, you can get out of the program. So here's the joke. You ready? Almost everybody, at least past their teenage years, has at one or more times in their life taken the red pill. I said, what happened when they took this red pill? They got out of the program. I said, yeah, but what happened when they got out of the program? They created heaven on earth without the program. Okay. When was that red pill experience? I go, science has recognized on a day-by-day basis, normal life, 95% of our behavior comes from the subconscious program, 5% from the conscious creative mind. But the time we fall in love, we fall head over heels in love with somebody, and that person is in your face right now, the person you were looking for in that whole experience, that's a time that science has recognized through studies that we don't go back into thinking, that we keep the conscious mind present, mindful. We stay mindful. I said, what does that mean? I said, we don't think. We're living. We're right here. We're taking it all in. I go, yeah, but what does that mean? That means when you fall in love, you stop defaulting to the program. Now you're creating from wishes and desires. I go, well, what's the consequence of that? I go, you fell in love. You ought to know what the consequence is. You got healthy and you created heaven on earth. And all of a sudden it goes, well, how did I create heaven on earth? I said, well, look, up until the time you met this person, all the way up until this point, your life could have sucked. You go, oh, my life sucks. Blah, 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 blah. I go, then you meet this person. I say, what happens? From that next moment on, life is beautiful. I'm healthy. I'm living heaven on earth. I go, well, what was this profound transformation from blah, blah, blah life to heaven on earth life? I go, that is the experience of not defaulting to the subconscious programming. When you get out of the program, then all of a sudden life on earth is heaven on earth. And then you go, yeah, but the honeymoon doesn't last. I go, but there's a reason. Because at first, you could stay mindful and pay attention to everything going on. And when you're doing so, then by definition, you're running from creativity, wishes, and desires. I say, yeah, but even a loving relationship, at some point, individuals have to deal with life. Don't you have a job? Do you have chores? Do you have things you have to do? Do you have the family obligations? I say, why is that? I say, because honeymoon, you're keeping your mind present, so your conscious mind is creating wishes and desires. When two people are simultaneously creating wishes and desires, heaven on earth. But life inevitably gets busy. And then once life gets busy, you start thinking. And once you start thinking, you now are not mindful, and your mind is traveling, and now you start playing subconscious programs. I go, yeah, but those programs aren't your wishes and desires. That's a behavior you got from other people. And all of a sudden, that's when everything starts to fall apart. You could be in a honeymoon, and as long as your wishes and desires, then you manifest heaven. But the moment they start thinking, because of requirements of whatever is due to be done in life, the moment you start thinking, then you default to the subconscious. Yeah, but the behavior that comes out then is not you, wishes, desires person. It's other people's behavior. And most of that, as we keep reflecting on, is negative and disempowering. I went out in the morning with conscious wishes and desires to become successful. And I come home at night failing in my wishes and my desires. It just didn't work, okay? So basically, I say, hey, what's wrong with my life? I wanted to be successful. It didn't work. I'm a victim. I'm a victim because my wishes and desires, which I went forward with, are not manifesting. And all this negative stuff, well, it can't be me because I'm the one with the positive thinking. Is you can have all that positive thinking, but if 95% of your life is coming from the subconscious, you're not going to get there. And you're going to blame it on the world. The two minds have different functions. Conscious mind, creative; subconscious mind, habitual. Okay? But here's the killer. They don't learn in the same way. That's where the problem comes from. I say, what do you mean? I say, the conscious mind is creative. How can you learn creatively? I go, read a self-help book. That's creative. Go to a lecture. Watch a video. Aha! I have an idea. That's a change. Creativity learns just like as fast as that. And I go, why is that relevant? Because we can educate our conscious minds very quickly. I asked people in the lecture, how many people have read a self-help book? And all the hands go up. Then I say, and how many people's life changed after you read the self-help book? And all the hands go down. I go, I know you know the stuff. Why? Because if I give you a quiz on the content of the book, I know you could get 100. So I say, okay, your conscious mind is totally aware. It knows how to do this. Then how come your life isn't doing it? Because I said, because you're only using that mind 5% of the time. So basically, it's not going to work that way. So I say, well, what are you going to have to do? I say, well, we're going to have to reprogram them. And I say, well, how do you reprogram the subconscious? And I go, well, this is the critical part about that. And that is, the definition is the subconscious is the habit mind. Yeah. If habits could change just willy-nilly, just boom, change every day, then we'd lose the function of that mind. It's very critical. For example, you were an infant and you learned how to walk. Do you have to even think about walking today? No, it's a program. I don't even have to say, I'm going to walk across the room. All I have to have is an intention. I want to be on the other side. I will automatically walk across the room. That's a habit. Driving a car, a habit. I say, why is it relevant? What would it be like if your habit mind would just randomly change every now and then? All of a sudden, oh, today I forgot how to walk. It's like, oh, are you kidding me? Habit minds don't want to change. So there's resistance. But it's a necessary resistance, otherwise a habit is not a habit. So, okay, I got, oh, wow. I have a creative conscious mind that can learn by any process at all, and a subconscious mind that resists learning. I go, well, it doesn't resist because it did learn. I say, how did it learn? If you want to retrain, relearn something, you can only do it the way the subconscious mind works. I go, so how does it learn? I go, first 7 years, hypnosis. The brain was in theta. You want to change a program? Then hypnosis or self-hypnosis, like using subliminal tapes, is a way of reprogramming. And say, okay, but that hypnosis only worked till age 7. Then I say, after age 7, how to learn? I said, how do you learn these? How many times did you repeat the alphabet? How many 100 times did you repeat that until you can get from A to Z? I go, why is it relevant? Because once you learn to go from A to Z, it's now a habit. You never have to learn it again. Yeah. Great. That's the habit mind. Okay. How'd you learn it? I repeated. Okay. So you want to change life in the subconscious program? Get a new behavior and religiously repeat it just like an exercise. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, and repeat it, and that will lead to a change of the program in the subconscious mind.
Will you learn
Those two,
something extra, or will you automatically replace it then?
you can learn new.
Yeah,
If you look, a kid doesn't know how to drive a car, but
yeah,
by the time they get the license now, they learn something extra, something new.
yeah.
Or if you put in a behavior that is in, challenges an existing behavior. Let's say I have a negative behavior,
Hmm.
and I exercise the correlate, the positive version of that negative behavior, and I exercise and exercise it. What is it going to do? It's going to replace the negative one with the positive one.
Yeah.
So I can add new programs, or I can rewrite existing programs. Okay. Also, on my website, brucelipton.com,
Hmm.
I have under resources a whole variety of what are called energy psychology or belief modification techniques. These are new ways of engaging the record button in the subconscious. And they're powerful because you can rewrite programs in 10 minutes, a program that you had your whole life. The other habituation and hypnosis takes a longer period of time, but some of these energy psychology things, you can 10 minutes rewrite a program. So this is very important because it gives us an insight in how to push that record button. And I say, well, what's relevant about that? And the answer is profoundly simple in this regard. If I take the wishes and desires of my conscious mind and install them as programs in my subconscious mind, then it means that honeymoon experience when I let go of the program the first time and was living from wishes and desires, if I have those same programs in my subconscious, then even if my mind gets busy and I default back into the subconscious, I'm still going to play the same wishes and desires.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Taking the red pill, reprogramming this thing, you can then have a life where you can have a honeymoon experience every day of your life or as long as you live on this planet, because even if you're not paying attention and you default into the subconscious, you're still going to be playing programs that support us.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And we just briefly mentioned the word love. It's actually a final question from me to you. What does love mean to you?
Love is living in total harmony. Now, does that mean love with another person? I go, no. You can be an artist and be so in love with your work that days go by, you haven't even an idea what was going on. You could be a gardener and you could be troubled, but then once you go into the garden and you put your hands in the dirt and you start growing things, guess what? Now you're back into harmony with the planet again and you start to feel it. So love is not just between people. Love is a person finding harmony in their lives. And when they find this harmony in their lives and they stay in love, then they have a tendency not to default as much to the subconscious programming. So people in love experience a greater, joyous, happier life than those people not in love. Those people not in love are not that they're not lovable. It's just they've been programmed not to be lovable. And recovering that program, and I say, well, yeah, because if everyone's in love, then for sure you will not know the difference between earth and heaven because they'd both be exactly the same.
Yeah, and you write such a beautiful story in your book, of course, The Honeymoon Effect. So everybody who has not read that, that's such a cool book, And Bruce, I'm super grateful, that you share all the wisdom with us because it's so important what you said. So thank you so much for that.
Dirk, I am equally grateful to you because if I talk about this in my own living room just now, so the last hour, and I stayed in the living room and talked and nobody was there, it'd be absolutely useless. But
well,
you provide a platform that people are seeking a new way of life. You're providing a platform for those people that are watching this now that I refer to as cultural creatives.
Yeah.
And cultural creatives are the ones that say we have to think outside the box because if we stay in the box, we're doomed.
Yeah.
And so cultural creatives are ones, give me a new vision, give me a new story, give me this. And you are feeding cultural creatives. And for me, that is the most important job. Get the news out to people. All righty.
Thank you, Bruce.
I hope it's useful, Dirk. There we go.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have such a beautiful background as well. It's wonderful.
It's summertime, babes.
I know.
Okay, Dirk. Thank you so
Bruce.
much.
Bye.
And
much love.
Good luck on it.
Thank
you.
Bye.